What's up, guys? So today I wanted to do something a little bit different. A while back, I did a video talking about how to set up this Sega whole Tower of Power thing. I really liked how that video turned out, and I have been really wanting to do another one kind of like that, but until fairly recently, I didn't have a console that was complicated enough of a setup to warrant its own video. Well, that's changed fairly recently because not too long ago, I got my hands on a Famicom. And while this alone isn't super complicated, getting this thing to work here in the States is a bit more complicated, and I thought it's worthy of its own video. So let's turn this thing around and we'll actually talk about how to set up and use a Famicom in the United States in 2025. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the Famicom, or the family computer, was the original release of what we know as the NES here in the States. This is the original console that became the NES when it was brought to the West. There were definitely a few quality of life improvements whenever it was brought to the States, like the fact that on the Famicom here, the controllers are actually hardwired into the console and they were made removable when it left Japan. One thing that the NES didn't have was actually this slider here, which was an eject button. So when you get tired playing your game, you can just press this in and it actually spits out the game, and you don't have to yank on it to pull it out of the system. Now, one of the downsides of the Famicom that was fixed in a later version of the Famicom, as well as fixed when it was brought to the States, was that the Famicom itself is RF only. There is no AV option for this model of Famicom without modding it. We'll talk about how we do that, how we deal with that here in a minute. There was eventually an AV Famicom made, but that was not the original release. What I have here is the original release, and it was RF only. What's very funny to me is that the design of the AV Famicom was brought to the States as the NES top loader, but where the original NES did have some level of AV out, the top loader NES was also RF only. So they took the body design of the AV Famicom and made it an RF only NES, which is really funny, but also really stupid. Now you need to be careful whenever you're going to plug this guy into power. If you have the original adapter that the Famicom came with, then you need to be careful because this might not play well with American outlets. For those who might not know, American wall plugs run at 120 volts AC, which stands for alternating current. The Famicom expects 10 volts of DC, which is direct current. The wall plug that comes with the Famicom does supply the 10 volts DC, as you can see there, the DC-10V, but it is expecting 100 volts AC. So if you plug this into 120 volts, it's going to be receiving more electricity than it's designed for. Now, I've heard mixed things on whether or not that's actually a problem, and from what I understand is it's not a problem until it is. So for the safety of the Famicom and for the safety of your electrical system in your house, I'd advise not just plugging this directly into the wall, even though it will fit, even though these plugs will fit. And so because of that, you have two options. The first one is to go onto eBay or somewhere and find a wall plug designed for the Famicom to be used in the States. I'll link to one that I found on eBay. Or you can do what I did and purchase a step-down transformer. What this will do is actually allow you to plug this into an American socket at 120 volts AC, and it will actually convert that power to 100 volts AC. So then you can just take this, plug in your original Famicom power supply, and you're off to the races. Now, if you only have a Famicom or you get a Famicom without a power supply, then I would advise just buying an American style power supply for the Famicom. That'd be so much easier and require fewer steps than getting a transformer. But the reason I opted to go for the transformer instead was because I do intend eventually to get more Japanese systems. Having the ability to just have a 100 volt supply is much better for what I intend to do down the line. But again, if you only have the Famicom, if you're only going to get a Famicom, or if you get a Famicom without a power supply, then just get the American power supply. That is so much easier. Now that we've got the power issue figured out, we just have to figure out what we're going to do to actually connect this to the TV. So to connect this to a TV in the States, you're going to need two things. You're going to need an RCA cable, and you're going to need an RCA to coaxial adapter. What this does is this plugs into the antenna in on your TV and allows you to connect this cable into that and connect the other end into this RF plug on the Famicom. So we've got our TV here, and we are just going to lean it out so I can show you what we're doing here. All right, now that I've got that sorted, see that right there, that cable antenna in? Most modern TVs are going to have that, and most CRT TVs are going to have that as well. So in the States, you're going to have to get your Famicom to play. You're going to have to take this and plug it into this. Don't drop it like I did. And do your best not to bend that little pin in there too. And then once it's in far enough, you can start the screws on the thread. Might need a little extra help just to get it going. There we go. And then once that's in, you can take the RCA cable that's plugged into the Famicom and feed it around however you need to get it to plug in to that adapter, right? Like so. Perfect, that's set up and we can push the TV back. As far as these switches on the back, TV game, this only mattered whenever you were using an actual like RF switch to go between a TV signal and the game signal. Since we're only worrying about the game signal and we're not using an RF switch, we're just plugging directly into the antenna in, you can just switch this and leave it on game. As far as channel 1, channel 2 here, those who might not know, in the States, we don't really have a channel 1 or a channel 2. At least all the TVs I've ever dealt with have always started at 3. But even if we did have a channel 1 and channel 2, it wouldn't matter because Japanese channel 1 and channel 2 are a different frequency than what would have been, I guess, American channel 1 and channel 2. So for playing the Famicom here in the States over RF, channel 1 in Japan corresponds to channel 95 here in the States, and channel 2 in Japan corresponds to channel 96 here in the States. That's one of the issues with getting a Famicom playing here in the States is some TVs don't go up that high. Luckily, most modern TVs and most CRTs that you're going to come across did go up that high. Most any TV that is actually cable ready should be able to get up that high and get you to channel 95 and 96, or channel 95 or 96 so you can play this system. All right, then now with all of that covered, we'll get everything plugged in and we'll show you what you need to do in your TV. Now the whole thing about doing this through RF is this is actually going to basically be creating a TV channel that you can tune into. But it won't do that if the system is off. So you want to make sure the system is turned on, and then you'll want to go into your TV's menu and find wherever it is that you do a channel search. So for this TV, it's go into the settings, channels and inputs, channels, and then channel scan. Mine allows me to do a manual scan, so because of that, I can tell it to just look for one specific channel, which is exactly what I'm going to do. In mine, you're going to need to set your tuner mode to cable, channel type to analog, and then take this all the way up to channel 95, because I have my Famicom set to channel 1. And then hit search, let it do its thing. You should find it, and it did. My TV's doing a weird thing where it's not letting the sound out. Hold, please. That's a problem with my TV, not with the Famicom, because it did this the other day. There we go. And as you can see, this is working just fine. Unfortunately, there is a touch of delay, but not enough that it's like unplayable. And I would advise actually, calm down. And I would advise actually setting this up for both channels, because sometimes channel 1 works better than channel 2, sometimes channel 2 works better than channel 1. And so it'd be good to have them both set up on your TV so you can flip-flop back and forth to find whichever one is the best. So I just changed it to channel 2 on my Famicom, and then we'll do the same thing, manually scan channel 96. And it found it, and we're good to go. So there you go. With enough extra parts and enough cables, you can get this thing working in the modern day to give yourself as authentic of experience as you can playing these games with original hardware. But if you're wanting to play these games and you can't find original hardware to play them on, then just emulate it. I can't tell you what to do. But that's going to be it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and keep an eye out in the near future where we've got another little toy that is worthy of its own video. If you liked the video, make sure to hit that like button, and if you like what I do here, then hit subscribe, because that does help me out a lot. Once again, thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one, y'all.